Hey everyone, and welcome to our Chumash series, part 1. We're going to begin delving into Chumash skills, how to help your children master Chumash. And I'm operating under the assumption that this is helpful for people who have no Chumash background at all. And I hope you'll concur with my opinion that when we're done, you'll really have the tools to be able to help your child study Chumash, do their homework with them, and I think this is extremely important, troubleshoot if you see that they're not succeeding in Chumash, that you'll have the skills to be able to do this. A story first. We published this book, the beginner Chumash book. It's called Bright Beginnings Chumash book. Parshas Lech Lecha, the third Parsha in Bereshis, and we published it in 2010, 13 years ago, and I'm humbled beyond words that over 20,000 children have used our book in the past 13 years. I'm so grateful to Hashem that I was able to have a part in this, and I hope that your children will be the next cohort to really benefit from the book. It's very pragmatic and practical, and I'm just going to start with a story. A few days after we released the book, there was some advertisement. I was the head of the Yeshiva Darchei Noam. I was the founder and dean of the school, and my wife worked in the office at the time, and she came in and she said, "Yankee, there's someone on the phone, and he said that he's been waiting 20 years for you, and he'll wait a little bit longer. I told him you were busy." This is the quote. She got a little bugged out. This is a true story. So this fellow said, "Listen, I understand Rabbi Horowitz is busy." My wife said, "My husband's a little tied up now." So this guy said, "I've been waiting for this for 20 years. I know your husband's busy. It's no problem. Put me on hold, and I'll wait as long as I have to. A couple of hours is fine. I'll just patiently wait on the phone." So my wife came in and said, "Yangi, this is either something like really off or something remarkable." Anyway, it turns out, I just got off the phone with him. I asked him permission if I could say this. His name is Dr. Dan Schwartz. He lives in Teaneck. He's a brain surgeon. And at the time, he had become religious 20 years earlier. So now it's 33 years. And Dr. Schwartz told me, Dan, we became very good friends subsequently, and he said that he's been wanting to learn Chumash for a very long time, but he's so disciplined, and from his training and all those years in school, when you say you know something, it means you really know it. And he said, I bought every English Chumash book that's out there, and I heard his frustration on the phone. He said, Rabbi Horowitz, they all start from the third floor. That was his quote. They all start from the third floor, meaning that the translation books, the understanding, they're operating under the assumption that you have basic language skills and some other things that you might need to know. And he said, I've gone to classes, I've bought the books, it's not working. And I saw this book, and as soon as he said someone brought him a copy right away, because everybody knows he's been looking for this. And that's what it's for. That's what it's for, folks. So a brilliant brain surgeon has been looking around for 20 years to find the skills that I'm going to be sharing with you. And again, we became great friends. He actually he dedicated the second book, the second Chumash book in the series. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this. Forgive me, this is the first time I've done a live with slides. I'm going to walk you through some handouts, in other words, but they're going to be up here so anybody watching this can see them. There's also, if you look at at my regular page, there are carousels with these slides. So this is a regular pasuk. This is the first verse in Parshas Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha is the third parsha in Bereshis, in Genesis, and it starts relating the story of how Abraham left his home and and went with God, went to the land of Israel, to Eretz Yisrael. So here's the pasuk. Vayomer Hashem al Avram. This is what it looks like. Hashem told Avram, Lech lecha, leave, go for your benefit. Me artzecha, from your land, umi moladetecha, from your birthplace, umi beis avicha, and from your father's home. El haaretz asher areka. I'm going to take you to the land that I will show you. So this is typically what a pasuk in Chumash looks like. If you have a translated Chumash, if you have a Chumash that has English translation, for example, if you're an English speaker, so it would have the translation next to it. But what the function and the purpose of our book is to give you the word structure to be able to not only understand this pasuk, but really to understand all of it. So this sheet is the first pasuk of our workbook, the first verse in our workbook. But instead of translating Vayomer, which means and he said, we break down the two prefixes. If you look at the blue is Amar, which corresponds to the word said. So teaching the learner that the word Amar is the root word, and that means said. The Yud, a prefix Yud, means he, and that that light font is a Vav before the word, which means and he said. So rather than translate the entire just verse, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, which would normally the way Chumash learners would translate it in a phrase, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, Hashem told Avram. So that would be 4 words actually, with the translation, listed together. So it's not broken down, so beginner learners can benefit from this. That was the purpose of this series, is meant for beginners to break it down so that they can proceed at their pace and acquire very important skills. So I just made this a little bit larger so you could see that blue box that says Amar, Aleph Mem Resh. That means it's a root word, and we have nouns and verbs have different colors, so it's easier for the learner to identify them. Okay? Now, again, I'm going to go over this later in the series much more carefully, but just want you to know now what it's going to look like and what we're preparing for. The pasuk, that first verse in Lech Lecha, actually has 3 worksheets. Again, we're going to explain all of this again. Don't get anxious if you don't understand it all. I'm doing this as just a big picture beginning, and then I'm going to go to the introduction to Chumash section. So this is part of the actual Chumash. Again, I'm just showing you things. You don't need to know this. We're going to do this probably in the 2nd or 3rd class of live that I'm doing in the series. So this helps the children with translation. You see that the green there, this is just matching. So this is just a translation skill. When you teach language, the way we do it, think about it. When you're learning a new language, you just use words. Think back to the days when you did vocabulary, language arts, whatever it was called at the time. They usually give you, let's say, 20 vocabulary words. They tell you the meaning of that word. Then your teacher says, could you make a sentence with each of those words? Why? Because in context, it becomes much more clear. So what we have in the worksheets, this is a worksheet just for translation. Again, we're going to get to all of this later. This worksheet, number 2 on this pasuk, teaches the children about prefixes and suffixes. And if you look on the bottom, there's a color chart. So the word and, the kids are supposed to color blue, they color red. Vayomer, right? Vayomer, and he said. So you see that blue before the word just helps the children. It's a fun exercise. It gets the children to recognize prefixes and suffixes. And then here is the Viola moment. Like they take, if you look on the left side, bayis is a root word, is a shorish, and mi base up on top matches to that. So that's how we introduce it to the children, so they get a robust education about the meaning of the words, how the Hebrew language, the Lego, clicks together, and also they get to see the words in context. When you did vocabulary, either you wrote sentences or they gave you a story that had those 20 words in it. Again, the same idea, to allow you to put it into context. Now, this is the motivational phase. This is really remarkable, and I didn't realize the impact of this until I actually saw it when we did the second book. This is a verse from book 2 in our series, which is later on in Parshas Lech Lecha. We pulled aside in the first book, we concentrated on 35 shorashim, 35 root words. At the back of the book, they're flashcards. The children review them. And the idea is that they know them cold. They all do, after a little while. Some kids who do learn better do it faster. Some kids do a little bit slower, but they really did, comprehend that quickly. Look at all those red dots, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe they're all different words. One is Vayomer, is the Shorosh Amar, Tain, Nefesh, Rechush, Kach. In book 2, there are those words with the red stars next to it were taught in the first book. That means the first book gave the children 35 common words that are used, and the kids all found them here. 5 out of basically, they know the whole pasuk. They can do the whole verse virtually on their own because they've learned so many of these words. And this isn't, an isolated pasuk. I just gave 3 quick sentences. Not all of them are this, is such a large percentage of them covered, but it gives you the idea of how impactful teaching children root words can be. Here's a third one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the words, again, were taught just in that first book, just for 35 root words. So I'm encouraging you to think about investing the time when you're learning with your children to be able to teach them the root words. And this is what, again, you're teaching your children or yourself, if you're a beginner learner, what the root words are about, the shoresh, and those prefixes. There are less than 20 prefixes and suffixes. So if you accumulate these words and know what the meaning of those words are, then you're really off to the races. This is just a remarkable slide. If there's one thing, one of the things you might want to really use as a takeaway, look what it says there. Hebrew verbs according to frequency of occurrence. By the way, this was done before computers. I think a fella in Bar Ilan University did this. Look at this list 1. List 1, verbs occurring 500 to 5,000 times. Take that second word, Amar, I don't know the exact number. I'm sure that it's thousands of times in the Torah. Now, I'm going to show you in a moment that if you don't have the skills to identify a root word, you have to memorize all the permutations where this root word occurs. I'll show you that in a moment. So just take it all in. Hebrew verbs that appear 500 times. So I want you to be empowered to see what the possibilities are. And here we have Hebrew nouns occurring 500 to 5,000 times. There's even a greater number. It's really remarkable. That's what really motivated me to do the book, was to be able to give the children the skills. Okay, so we're going to step back now, and now we're going to start from the beginning of the introduction of the book. Again, I wanted you to see the big picture of what we're aiming for. We're aiming for a deeper understanding of Chumash text, of the text that's in the Chumash, how by teaching children, adults, yourself, anyone, by teaching, let's use the word learners, by teaching the learners the root words And so root words more or less is memorization. But as we saw there, it's not that many words. So I'm going to walk you through the beginning. This is the first section of the first volume of our Chumash book. Parenthetically, by the way, we didn't put this in until the second printing. We started from that first verse, that the first sheets that I showed you are the actual Chumash. And the feedback that we got was, like Dr. Schwartz said, we started from the second floor. So we made this section to be able to get, so the learners can start understanding things from Shorashim. I'm going to take questions as soon as my presentation is done. I would say I have about another 10 minutes, and then I'll be delighted to take your questions. Okay, so we're learning our first Shoresh. Again, Shoresh means a root word. And Aleph Mem Resh, which we saw at the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha, Vayomer Hashem, and God said. So the root word itself, that was in blue, is Amar, Aleph Mem Resh, and the translation of that means to say. Okay, and here are examples. If you look on the bottom, Rabbi Ravitsky, the superstar teacher Rebbe who made this book, introduced it by using these three words Amar in different contexts with other Lego pieces attached to it. So Vayomer is and he said. Okay, that we have. Let me quickly go back to that pasuk where we had Vayomer in the actual pasuk itself. So he got it on the top line. You see on the top line here it says Vayomer and he said. So it's broken down there. That was a word that the children actually had in their Chumash learning. Amarti, here you have a suffix. So the taf yud at the end of the word means I. So amarti is I said. Lemar, lamed before a word means to. So lemar is to say. There's a whole section later in this introduction, we're not going to do it tonight, we'll do that tomorrow night, that goes through the individual prefixes and suffixes. We do some of them at the beginning. But again, there aren't that many of them. So you'll see as you go, it really becomes progressively easier. So that's the first pasuk, that's the first worksheet on this. And here, what I was telling you before, how valuable it is to be able to have an understanding of how this Lego works, of how Hebrew word Lego is. Again, Amar is the Shoresh. Here you have 6 words that all of these words have, you can identify, look in the middle of them, sometimes there's prefixes before it, sometimes there's a suffix. So this actually, this is an illustration of how this can help you, because when someone looks at this word, a learner looks at this word, they see the word Amar, so they feel that it's something that's doable. Oh, I got this. This is Amar. So I have to just learn, let's say the second one, look on the upper left. Imri is say, so you just need to find out what a yud at the end of the word means. So here, Vatomer, we had before Vayomer, this is the feminine. She said, Ve'amru, under that means they said. Okay, Amarnu is we said. But again, if you don't have this information, it's literally, if you're learning by rote, you literally have to memorize all of these 6 words for no reason, because if you know the language, then you just get it. You get it yourself. It's also very empowering for children, for learners, to feel that they own this. I had a remarkable story. I posted a video, a promo video. If you look at this page at Yaakov Horowitz, a little further back, I posted a promo video that we did. There's a Dr. Ephraim Book who spoke for a few minutes about his yeshiva experience, which was similar to mine, where we basically memorized all the words. And Dr. Book said, now that I'm learning with my children this way, now I'm starting to learn better as an adult. He said that on the video. So we knew we were onto something when we started doing this. Dr. Book told me right after Shavuos, after the holiday of Shavuos, where we read Megillas Rus, Ruth, we read about the life of Rus. His son was sitting next to him. Now remember, his son was in second grade at the time. He had been doing this style of learning for 2 years. And the book told me that I saw my son following along with the place, listening to the person who was reading the Megillah. And he said, I thought he was just doing Kriya. I thought he was just reading the words without understanding them. And then he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, Daddy, what does this shorish mean? What does this root word mean? And he said, I flipped it. Dr. Book told me, he said, I couldn't believe it. That meant all the words until then, he was able to identify the shorashim because he had learned them and he accumulated a lot of information. So here is more a graphic of how the Lego works. Okay, you have Amar, say, Vav before it, okay, is and, Ta is you, so you say Vi Amar Ta, and you will say, Tomer is she said, Amra. Okay, so this graphic is meant to highlight. It's just more color coded. It brings a little more color to the canvas by explaining how the shorashim work. Here we're introduced to another shorish, Beis Reish Chaf, which comes from, you can not, again, if you know this, you could recognize, think of what you have Beis Reish Chaf with, bracha, a blessing. Okay, so or you could say Vayevarech, and he blessed. But again, it's just another root word that we acquire. So Barech is bless, and we'll see later. Again, we're going to be utilizing this knowledge to start breaking words apart. So this is, again, these pages are all from the Bright Beginnings Chumash book, workbook number 1. If you go to my bio or the profile page, there's a link. Link tree. If you click on the link tree, you can see where to get the book in print form and where to get the book. If you have an Apple product, you can actually download the book right away as an Apple book, and there are some sample pages there also. Okay, so let's go back to the ice cream cone. It says ve'avarcha. This is a pasuk in Lech Lecha. So we see the shoresh Beis Reish Chaf, and the exercise is color Beis Reish Chaf in blue, color prefix is red, and suffix is yellow. At this point, we're not even attempting to translate the prefix and suffix, just to notify the children that there is Lego here, that they should look for the middle word. When I say Lego, I mean the root word, and this ve'avarcha, that particular word, has 2 clicks, 2 added pieces on one side and one at the end. And then the next one is a different variation, the green apple. So according to this homework assignment, the kid would take out a blue marker and do Beis Reish Chaf in blue, and the vav beforehand, and would be colored red. And in this time, if you look at the ice cream cone, there are 2 reds and 1 yellow, right? Because there's 2 prefixes and 1 suffix. And ubeirachtem, there are 2 suffixes and 1 prefix. So again, we were very careful that it should be educationally sound, not to rush the children, not to rush the learners. And if you're doing it now, don't try to skip steps. Just go slowly at the pace that we created. This book was meant to have reflection time and to allow the children. We're not interested in telling them what the whole word at this point, what va'avarcha means, or what uverachta means, or mivarachecha. We just want to point out the purpose of this page is only specifically to teach that there is a prefix and suffix, and that children should be able to identify them by coloring the shorish, the root word, in blue, and then noticing the Lego on both sides. Here we have 2 more shorashim. Halach is to go or went. you'll see this throughout our book. You'll see throughout the book many times the same word could mean different things. So it'll say go/went. Some of them actually could even have 4 meanings. They're all very similar, but we want to make it clear that it should be clear to the learners what the different options are for this word, even though they're similar. Go and went, like basically, is a similar idea. And Reish Aleph Hey means to see. Okay, Reish Aleph Hey means to see. Hey Lamed Chaf means went. If you notice, we don't have nekudos. There aren't dots, punctuation marks under these. The nouns have them, not for now, not even important now. Okay, but that's just put it there. If anybody wants to ask a question, I'll be glad to take it. Okay, we're basically winding down now. 2 more things and we call it a night. Okay, so this is, we know all rules have exceptions to the rules. So the exception to the rule here is that some of the shorashim, when you notice them in words, there aren't 3 letters. We established a rule at the beginning that basically root words, shorashim, have 3 letters to them. The letters, generally speaking, a yud, look right on top of that thing. The bird is. Look what the bird is. What do they call them? They go behind the planes. Those ads. So, excuse me. If you look, hint, the letters yud, vav, nun, hey. That spells Yonah, a dove. Fly away, just like the Yonah bird flies. So that's like just a memory tool. So Yud, Vav, Nun, Hey. Let's start with the first one on the right side. So what we have there, look at the top in orange, Shorish, Reish, Aleph, Hey, Ra'ah. That Shorish that talks about seeing. So it says Ra'isi. It doesn't say Reish, Aleph, Hey, and then a Yud. So that letter drops. Okay, Ra'inu, we saw, they saw. And same thing for halach. Again, Yonah, Hey, is one of the 4 letters found in the word Yonah. So there you have also Elech, Telchi. So again, it doesn't have to be 3 letters. The Shorish sometimes winds up being actually 2 letters sometimes, and some of those fly away. Now, if you look here, there are 2 skills. According to this system of learning, there are 2 skills the kids need. They need to learn how to translate the shorashim, and that's number 1. So the kids draw a line, let's say, on the bottom right is Reish Aleph Hey, Ra'ah means to see, so they would connect the line to see. And on the bottom, it's draw a line from the word to its shorish. So if you look at the word mivarachecha, to bless, those who bless you actually, so that would correlate to Beis Reish Chaf. Okay, so that's an exercise sort of. We taught 4 root words already, and we did not discuss what the prefix means. We're going to get to that tomorrow. But now we just have this notion of looking for the root word, trying to find that to facilitate the learning. Then we just need to figure out what the prefixes and suffixes do, which we pick up quickly, as I said, because there aren't that many of them. Now we're on our way to accumulating a skill set that will help us. Remember, we looked at initially, one of the first things we looked at was this page where we have a full pasuk of text, a full verse of text. Now we can work our way through this, and you can even look at this page where you can start identifying different root words. Okay, I'm done. I'll be delighted to take questions. If anybody has any, please feel free to put them in a comment. And if nobody has any questions, we'll say goodnight and we'll see you all tomorrow. What's the workbook called? Where can we purchase it? Okay, so The workbook is called Bright Beginnings. There's Chumash book 1 is the first half of Parshas Lech Lecha, which is the third parsha in Bereshis and Genesis, and you can get it on the Amazon page. Go to my profile right here on at Yaakov Horowitz. There's a link tree there. You'll see there's a link to a digital version that you can get it on an Apple product, and you can get it also. You can also get it a print version on Amazon. Please save the live on a page. Absolutely will do. Anybody else, folks? I'm just scrolling through quickly to see if anybody had any questions. We're good. So let me go to the end. I'll wait another couple of minutes. Anybody? Anybody have any questions, folks? Okay, we'll call it a night. Save the video to Facebook. Yes, thank you. What I'm going to do is kosher cooking with love. What we're going to do is it's going to be downloaded, then I'm going to put it in YouTube so that people can benefit from it who don't have Instagram access. So on my 3 social media platforms, the other ones, in other words, LinkedIn, Twitter, and having a senior moment, and Facebook. So it's going to be listed there. Okay? I hope you found it helpful. Really, I want you to feel empowered. That's the bottom line. I just want you to feel empowered to learn this. Like I said, 20,000 kids already, thank God, went through our book, and next week, I'm doing a series on Gemara. Same thing. You can walk in with no Gemara knowledge, and you'll be able to. My goal is to enable you to learn from a translation, an English translation, or whatever your first language is, a translation Chumash. That's my goal. And we're going to do the same with Gemara, meaning you can pick up an Art Scroll or a Steinsaltz Gemara and be able to learn from that by the time we're done next week. I'm doing a series on Gemara as well. Okay, I hope you found it helpful, and I really hope you'll be able to be there to help your kids learn. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.